Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast.
It's that music, which means that we're back again with episode 46 of Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast. You got me, Dave D, sitting here.
And me, Dave Beer. Dave Beer?
Dave Beer? Oh, I like that, Dave. We've got to keep that in. That's not going. Dave Beer. That's his new name.
Man.
Dave D and Dave Beer. Yeah, we are keeping that, Dave.
Okay, fine.
Welcome along to what already promises to be an entertaining episode. How many beers you had tonight already, Dave?
No, I haven't. This is the problem. Regular listeners will know that my wife is pregnant and it is getting close, and I think now my mind's a bit scrambled. So, and it's not, and the baby's not even here yet. So I think.
But what Dave is doing, he's actually trying to limit himself, so he's always ready to be called into action.
From the time of this recording, funnily enough, until then I had free reign, but the agreement was once we got within a certain amount of weeks out, I have to be able to drive to hospital, which is fair enough.
And I just said to Dave before we hit the button here, wouldn't it be interesting if Katie went into labour while we were recording an episode? So anything could happen, literally. But things we do know are going to happen on this episode. We're talking to James and Kat from Artifacts Brewing in Bury St Edmunds, your neck of the woods, Dave Beer.
Yes, and funnily enough, keeping the theme going, actually have Katie to thank for this interview because they were at the Suffolk show last month. Katie, as the very good wife that she is, went off to have a look around the food hall and she found Artifact and she rang me up and she said, "Oh, have you had these?" And I said, yes, I've had them. And I said, "Are they there?" And so there was a three-way conversation on the phone where I said, I think we tried to sort this out before, but it didn't happen. But anyway, with Katie sort of stood there getting beer off them, I think they felt obliged to give us an interview as well. So this is how that sort of come about.
We've also got an appearance from Nick at Hobson's Brewery. They've been going for 30 years. They're just about to celebrate their 30th anniversary and they've brewed a special beer for the occasion. So we'll be talking all things Hobson's and how things have changed in 30 years. We've also got our usual features. We've got Tried and Tested, our favourite beer since the last episode. We've got Sam, the brewer's wife, and we've got Brew to Me, the way we always kick it off, as we get hold of a couple of beers from breweries we haven't tried before. And Dave always starts us off. So Dave, what have you got in your corner this time?
Well, I've got something quite different, actually. This feeds into, firstly, it's the fact that I went into Hopsters a few weeks ago, and that was on the premise of I needed to get the Vault City beer, which we obviously did for Hype or Try.
I think you mentioned this on the last episode, didn't you?
Yeah, and I knew full well when I went in that I wasn't going to just get that and walk out. So, of course, I went through the stuff, and I happened to go in when they've got some new beers, and it says a lot that Ed, the sort of owner, knows the face, knows what I'm like. And he said, "Oh, do you want to have a look at literally what's coming today? Not even been unpacked." And he said, "Well, we got this, all UK breweries." And I was like, okay. And he said, "Actually, I know what you'll be after. You want the good stuff. Like, we're starting to get some more beers from further afield again, because a shop like ourselves and other bottle shops, if you want to get the UK beer, you can just go on the web shop. Nearly every brewery has those now, don't they? It's a way of keeping the costs in your pocket, keeping the profit in your pocket, rather. So what they've done is they're starting to get some beers from the continent, and I believe they've got some American stuff coming in at some point. This beer is from the continent, and it's from Germany, and it is by Atelier Verai or Atelier Verai.
How do you spell that, just in case people want to follow them?
Yeah, so it's ATELIER and then VRAI. And the beer in question is called Zeus Thunder, which is a New England IPA with Citra and Mosaic. It's 6.9%.
Any beer that calls itself Zeus anything is going to be pretty heavyweight, isn't it?
Yeah. But what is really fascinating, to me at least, is the concept for this beer. Now, this is number 3 in a 5 of the AI series. This is a collaboration with Mon Petit Café in Bentstown. The description of the beer and everything is all AI generated. So it's sort of putting stuff into search engine and, we want a generic image of this. This is the description.
Oh, wow.
The text has been produced by ChatGPT. And as it says on the back, the prompt for this text description was, what would you recommend to a beer-loving Greek who wants to open a craft beer cafe in Stuttgart? And then there is a whole big spiel from the created AI text of what they'd do. They suggested to attract customers, the cafe could offer things like a big fat Greek beer tasting and stuff like that. But actually, Nico, who has kindly sent a voice note when I explained how I'd got hold of this beer in Ipswich, he will tell us all about that. So before he does, I had better taste a little bit of it, hadn't I?
Don't you find it mildly concerning what AI is going to do to our lives?
I mean, obviously, this beer hasn't been brewed by AI
No,
yet.
but it does make you think maybe that could happen. Maybe instead of me and you sat here, we could be replaced by AI.
Weirdly enough, I went to a show in London a couple of months ago, and that talked about ChatGPT and AI and how it could all... And essentially, it's clever to a point at the moment, and it still can't do nuance of things. And
Yeah.
so that's where it falls down. It's ultimately how smart the people making the AI want to make the AI was my takeaway as to whether you and I will be sat here. The
really smart people are the people behind the AI, aren't they?
Yes, exactly. And then you obviously make your product as smart or as stupid, like what happened with Adobe, didn't it? Other photos processing software is available. But they had an issue and then sort of changed it slightly. But anyhow, back to the beer. Looks
great, by the way, in the glass there.
Looks great. Exactly what you'd expect. Really good head, but really holds as well. Smells quite weed, for want of a better word.
Right.
It's got that kind of smell to it. Well, that is quite thunderous. The Mosaic comes in quite early, actually.
What have we got in there, hops-wise?
Just Citra and Mosaic.
Okay.
Yeah, really well balanced. It's quite a classical beer for the style. It's not necessarily doing anything different, but sometimes you don't need it to. It's very nicely made. I bet it's really great on keg. Doesn't quite taste like 7%, which is problematic. But as I said, Nico will tell us a bit more about not only this beer, but also Atelier and everything they do.
Hi, this is Nico, the founder of Atelier Vrey, a small brewery from Germany. First of all, thanks to Dave for the invitation and the opportunity to tell you a bit about us and our beers. So, what do you need to know about us? Well, we are located near Frankfurt, which is quite central in Germany. Like many other craft brewers, I started as a home brewer. The initial attempts about 15 years ago were pretty awful, so we started producing apple wine instead. That's quite common in our region, and luckily we ended up making an extremely good apple wine. It was a relatively quick and easy process, and before we knew it, we had 300 liters at home. However, after we drank 20 liters of the really good cider, we realized that we preferred drinking beer. A few years later, we gave it another try, and it turned out really well. And that was the point where I got completely hooked on brewing. Every free hour I had was spent brewing, reading beer books, dreaming about the 100 of different beer styles, researching online or writing recipes. In 2016, I decided to turn this passion into a business. Initially, I started with a small nano brewing system housed in an 11th century castle, more or less, just for fun. To my surprise, I submitted some of our beers to high-profile international beer competitions and even received awards. That's when I thought, okay, this stuff seems to be pretty good, so let's try on a bigger scale. We switched to Gypsy Brewing, and since 2017, we have been brewing at Brauhaus Binkert in Bamberg. It's a family-run brewery with a modern 15-hectoliter system. Initially, our beers were only available in kegs because I was reluctant to bottle our hop-forward beers. Being a stickler for quality, I considered only cans as an option. Luckily, in 2019, I met Benedict from Black Brute, who had the same issue. We decided to invest in a small, high-tech can filler with patented German technology. So we don't have our own brewery, but we have our own can filler. It's quite unusual, but has many advantages. We now export to various countries in Europe, and you can even find our beers in Asia and Australia, although we might not be well known in England yet. We hope that's changing. We received great feedback from the guys at Northern Monk during the Hop City Festival this year and found a fantastic distributor for the UK. And honestly, I love the UK. You are such a relaxed people, and especially the beer scene is so much bigger and wider than here in Germany. We will definitely visit you again soon. Now let's talk about our beers. Atelier Vrey is all about typical beer geek styles, especially big, hazy IPAs. I love experimenting with hops and yeast, and the fruitier, the better. Balance is crucial for me, but I lean towards a bit more bitterness rather than excessive sweetness. That's why our New England IPAs are often a bit more bitter than usual. In the midst of the second corona lockdown, we also started our barrel aging program with over 100 different barrels. It was like being a kid in a candy store. We bought and brewed with everything our hearts desired, including classic whiskey barrels, sherry, maple syrup, Fijian rum, and filled them with thick stouts, barley wine, imperial reds, and more. We released our first beers from this program early last year, and the feedback was amazing. We also have a sour beer project called Handstand, where we brew smoothie-style sours with an incredibly high fruit content. That's why the can is upside down, to help distribute the fruits better when pouring. Isn't that a super smart idea? And it looks cool too. Yes, we absolutely adore such small ideas, gimmicks, and innovations. I consider myself a rather creative person, and my mind is constantly stumbling upon interesting things and topics. This often leads to a multitude of ideas, albeit somewhat disorganized. My entire digital notebook is filled with them. Additionally, my passion for photography and creating unique wordplay comes into play. I love searching for unique photos or playing with special coatings, scents, or scratch-off labels on our labels. That's why we always release our beers in series, each with a specific theme and consisting of 5 different beers. Ultimately, these series serve as a summary of what currently interests or moves me. Dave, you recently tasted our Zeus Thunder, a New England IPA brewed with Citra and Mosaic hops. Not only did you indulge in exquisite brewing craftsmanship, but you also took a sip of the future. This beer is the 3rd installment of our AI series, where both the text and artwork were entirely designed and created by artificial intelligence. We started exploring this concept a year ago, and we're immensely fascinated and simultaneously shocked by what AI is capable of achieving nowadays. It seems we're not alone in feeling this way. For the entire series, we implemented various themes and printed prompts on the cans. We generated some really cool stuff, and even a small comic emerged and made its way onto one of the cans. We brewed the Zeus Thunder New England IPA for the anniversary of a craft beer bar in Stuttgart founded by a Greek beer enthusiast. We tasked the AI with creating ideas, and the result turned out to be hilariously funny. For instance, we received suggestions for beer names and even a concept for the bar itself. Let me read you a part of it. To attract customers, the cafe could offer a My Big Fat Greek beer tasting where customers can try a variety of Greek-inspired craft beers paired with traditional Greek meze platters. They could also have a Beer Olympics event where customers can compete in beer-themed games like beer pong or beer stein hoisting. The text was generated by ChatGPT, a masterpiece, and it's getting even better. The artwork was designed by Midjourney, where we provided the prompt: a very white guy on the beach, Greek, 80s. I really love the picture. It's so f***ing realistic and detailed. What do you think, Dave? Man, doesn't it look pretty cool? Oh, and in case you're wondering why my voice sounds a bit peculiar, well, in line with the AI series, I used a text-to-speech app and had an AI generate the audio for this podcast contribution based on my own voice. I hope you like it, and it was reasonably good to listen to. Otherwise, next time I choose the voice of Brad Pitt or Boris Johnson. Wow, it was a lot of work and took more time than speaking it myself. But the experience was very cool. I've probably never made so few mistakes when speaking English. Thanks, artificial intelligence. If you want to hear my real voice with all the mistakes or filler words, the best way is to visit us in Germany, or see you at a nice craft beer event in the UK. Cheers to you all.
I tell you what, Dave, that's one of the most interesting voice notes we've had on this part of the podcast.
Fascinating, isn't it? It just shows how much is going on outside of our little bubble of the UK and how much harder it must be to get craft beer to take in Germany almost because of the roots they've got with their beers and how good they are to then sort of start breaking these kind of things through. Yeah, as you say, really, really fascinating.
And how's that beer holding up now?
Yeah, really good. The head is it's a weird thing to talk about, but it actually holds up really, really well. It's unusual because normally by now, most beers, it just goes, doesn't it? And you're just left with all the liquid. But this holds up really well. It
looks really full in the glass there, like it's got a lot of body to it.
Yeah, it does. That's probably what will slow you down more than the ABV because it is quite a full beer. You can't power through it, but it's a good beer. I enjoy that immensely. I've got another one of theirs as well to taste, which I think, if I remember correctly, is a dipper, which I'm looking forward to. But that's really nice. Really enjoy that. Would love to have more of their stuff. Obviously, that's going to just be determined by how easy it is to get hold of. But if you do see any of their stuff out and about in sort of bottle shops, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend trying them.
And just a reminder, what were they called again?
Atelier Vrai.
Excellent. Well, I'll keep an eye out for those. I'm staying nearer to home. I'm going to Manchester. Right, if I say to you craft breweries in Manchester, who do you think of?
Track.
Yep.
Cloudwater.
Yep.
Sure Shot.
Sure Shot, yeah. Squawk.
Oh, yeah, Squawk. Yep.
Quite a few anyway, aren't they?
There's an awful lot. We had those guys on previously, didn't we, who were building the box in the Manchester area. And
that's right.
Opened our eyes to a couple.
I say Manchester. They're on the edge of Manchester. It's actually Stockport. But for the sake of this, Manchester.
More breweries in Stockport than you think.
Runaway actually moved recently from Manchester to Stockport. And there are a few there, aren't there? You're right.
Yes.
Anyway, the brewery I'm talking about is Neighbourhood Brew Co. Came across them, realised I'd had nothing from them. They haven't been going too long. I think you've actually had something from them, haven't you?
Yeah, because the peek behind the curtain, when we start talking to people on Instagram and stuff, I often get to see who you're trying to interact with, which is quite interesting. You started talking to them and I thought, I think I've had these. So I had a little look and I have had them. I've had a couple of their beers, but I think I got them from our sponsor, Andy, given their location. I think that's how I must have found them. He must have had them. I've been meaning to ask. He must have had them in previously. So where did you get yours?
I got mine straight from the brewery. They've got quite a nice selection on their web shop. In fact, before I taste the beer, let's hand over to one of the owners, Jake, and he can tell us all about the brewery and about the beer I'm just about to drink.
It's Jake here from Neighbourhood Brew Co. I'm one of the owners, and we opened the brewery in April last year. Neighbourhood Brew Co. is owned by me and my fiancée Corinne, and we opened the brewery with an idea of making just really great beer for people to drink. It's something that we've enjoyed ourselves over the years, and we wanted to share that experience with other people. My background in the brewing industry is, started off on a small scale micro pub with a 500 litre kit, supplying just ourselves. After there, we moved on to more of a mainstream brewery producing large volume beers that were all gluten free. So I was head brewer there for a little while. And then after many conversations with Corinne, we got it in our heads that we'd give it a go ourselves and see what we could do. So after a lot of toying about with the idea of opening a brewery, we had the opportunity to take over a place in Poynton. So that's where the brewery is set up right now. Got a 6-barrel kit. We like to make, hoppy, modern pale ales, IPAs, and we don't really like making the same beer twice. So you'll notice that if you keep an eye on what we're bringing out, we tend to have about 2 new beers a month at the moment. Obviously, we're still quite new, so we really appreciate you guys getting in touch with us to have a chat and try some of our beers. We sent you some samples over. I think you've got a few over there. We've got one in particular that I think you guys would be worth giving a go, is our white IPA. So it's called No Bad Days. Comes in at 5%. It's a really interesting style of beer that we wanted to toy with making. A few different hops in there. So it has Brew 1, Nelson Sauvin, and Galaxy. I think it has some really great attributes from both styles of beer. It has really good bitterness throughout it. Makes it really refreshing and drinkable. The colour on it is really appetizing. Really nice haze to it from all the wheat that's in there. You also get a really nice kind of savoury note in it that I think is just really distinctive in the style, and really happy with it. It's something that I think we might revisit again as a style for sure. Yeah, it'd be great to hear what you guys think about it. We also, in the current box that you've got, I think we've got some of our most recent release, which is When and Where, and that is a rye pale coming in at 4.5%. Rye is actually one of my favourite ingredients to brew with. I think the flavour that you get out of it is really interesting and complex. And I think when you stick it together with some really nice resinous hops, it's just a match made in heaven. So the colour of it shined like a really nice kind of orangey red in the sunlight. Looks really juicy, but it packs all that kind of pine and citrus and resin notes that you'd expect from a West Coast style, with that really obvious rye hit, which adds like a really nice spiciness to it. Once again, really appreciate you guys getting in touch with us and having a go of our beers. It'd be great to hear what you think of them. Cheers.
Well, there you go. Jake has said that very nicely there, telling us all about Neighbourhood Brew Co. and about the beer that I've got, which is a white IPA.
Okay. So how do you get a...
Right.
Oh, yeah, you'll have to tell... Yes.
Well, a white IPA is said to cross two styles, like American IPA and a Belgian wit. So this could be right up your street, Dave.
So would something like... Is Blue Moon classed as that then, almost? Because I think people think of Blue Moon as a wit, but I don't necessarily think it is.
Yeah, they always talk about it as being a wit, don't they?
Oh, it doesn't look... You just held it up there. I mean, that's not a million miles off mine, is it?
No, not really.
Very similar in the glass. I mean, obviously, unfortunately, listeners don't have this benefit, but Dave's beer, well, we've both got quite yellowy beers, quite thick looking, good head on both.
Well, as Jake told you there on that voice clip, with this, you can expect a lot of hops at the front, but also sort of a savoury note on the Belgian wit side of things. So let's see what it tastes like. Lovely head, by the way. Oh, I tell you what, that's nice. I didn't quite know what to expect because I'm not sure I've had many white IPAs. It's not a style you see a great deal of, is it? Black IPAs, yes, but white IPAs, you don't get that at all.
I don't even know that I was necessarily aware it was a style.
Well, as Jake said, they like to try out all these different things, and you don't see many of their beers being brewed again. They're always looking for the next thing, and maybe they've got something with this one. This tastes good.
So what does it sort of taste of then?
The West Coast element is quite dialed down. It's not piney and resinous too much. It's sort of kept in check by a slight savoury note. They gel really well together. This was brewed with a lot of wheat to give it that haziness and the savoury flavour. And the hops here, interestingly, Dave, are Galaxy, Brew One, which we talked about a bit recently, saying that not many people use it, and now all of a sudden people are starting to use it. Yeah,
it's had a bit of a Enigma is the other at the moment, I've noticed. A lot of people are into Enigma.
Weird how they go through peaks and troughs, isn't it, these hops? And also Nelson Sauvin is in this as well, so 3 hops. That
is gonna just be, by nature, like you say, it's gonna be quite savoury, isn't it? Bits of oniony, verdanty oniony.
Yeah, but not
that much, not sweaty onion.
Not to that extreme. I'll tell you what, Dave, I'm really enjoying this part of the podcast more and more. I feel as though we're finding some really good breweries out of this now.
Yes, and if people are listening to this thinking, oh, you haven't had this brewery on yet, like, I know those guys, they're great, like, get them on. By all means, tell us, or, tell them if they want to get in touch with us. We're always looking for new breweries. That's sort of kind of becoming the focal point of this podcast. I think that's what Dave and I, without speaking for you too much, Dave, I think that's what we enjoy the most, isn't it? Yeah,
very much. Shining a light on breweries who don't get into the spotlight very often, and because they don't get heard of otherwise. And talking of which, a Northern Ireland Brew to Me special is not too far off now. We've got lots of content in, and we've got lots of beers in. So, yeah, I think you should look out for that in the next couple of weeks, and we'll try and get that out there for you. And it can guarantee there's going to be breweries in there that you won't have heard of.
You're listening to Dave B. and Dave D. on Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast.
As ever, we are delighted to welcome guests onto the show, and this time is no different. And extra special for me is that they are a brewery based in my neck of the woods. It is a delight to welcome James and Kat, a.k.a. Artifact Brewing.
Evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for coming on. Regular people know as well that I often bemoan the lack of breweries and craft breweries and whatnot within Suffolk, but I think that is slowly changing. And definitely in part thanks to you guys, because you are based near Bury St Edmunds. So How did it come about, and how long have you been going now?
Yeah, it's been 3 years now. Yeah, managed to buy kit secondhand from guys for Cowboys in Cambridge, very small scale, and just cobble it together in a container. Lots of long evenings of doing electrics and plumbing and we got it running. So it's a bit crude, but we can make some reasonably good beer, hopefully.
Do you ever regret that decision?
2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Why did we do this? But yeah, it's a bit like you were saying. We kind of came back from university, come back to Suffolk, and we're just like, oh, the beer scene here is a bit non-existent.
Yeah.
And that was back, well, not loads of time ago, but in Brewdog was kind of just taking off and getting kind of sexy, and it was like, oh, there's this whole world out there, but not maybe in Bury St Edmunds. And you just got a bit obsessed making beer at home. And I got fed up and was like, can you get out of the house? And if you're good at this, can you make some money out of it? And, could you just get on with it, please?
It started off when we're getting the stones in, and then you'd be opening the can up. It smelled great. But then hits your mouth, and straight away, your tooth enamel's gone. That sort of insane IBU level. And I was like, I hate it. I love it. And I got really excited about them. I just got to sort of get into those sort of styles. And then always a really big part of my heart for classic, like cask beer. But I kept trying to push the boundaries of silly things, and it got a bit out of hand at one point. It's all about creativity. I got really excited about it.
So you did have a full-time job, and now that's gone, and your full-time job now is the brewery. That's right, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So I used to be a designer, but just over a year ago now, I've sort of parked that and just jumped feet first and started making bits here full time.
How's that working out, given given everything that's going on in the world at the moment?
Well, we're very lucky that we have a lot of support, and we are constantly making beer to order, in essence. So as soon as we make it, it's sold, which is great great problem to have. Yeah, so we are always busy, which is good. So I hope that if the economy hadn't had a real downturn sort of last year, we may have then found some funding and then elevate it to a much bigger system. But currently, we're just trying to make it work. I've got some new exciting fermenters, so I can do far more exciting styles. I've got a really cool fruity saison tank, whereas before, regards to cleaning processes, I wasn't confident in using a diastatic yeast strain. If you want to get geeky, we can talk that properly as well. So I didn't want to risk using like diastatic yeast strains. I couldn't used to do really heavy hop charges because of the risk of dissolved oxygen. Whereas now I've got a nice saison tank. I'm planning a heavily fruited sour for our July event, or apricot like Nipa sort of thing. So I'm really pushing the boundaries now, which is, bring it back to my roots where I started, because I kind of pulled away when I realised the limitations of my kit. But I try to make it work and still have my twist on beer.
So how much beer are you actually brewing at the moment then?
It's roughly about 22,000 litres a year, so it's still not very much, actually.
Save me doing the sums. What's that a week?
Well, we were doing the quick maths a minute ago, so we worked out since this time last year we've done about 80 brews, an average of 220 litres of brew.
What product we get out, yeah.
So we worked out it's probably about 30 hours a week of brewing and packing.
Just pure, yeah.
And let alone the sales and everything else. And it was about 40,000 pints a year.
Okay.
So,
it's roughly, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, break that down.
You're in an enviable position then, having most of that sold immediately.
Yeah, it is really good. Got ourselves a bit out of sync by doing a lot of bottling earlier in the year, because we arrived at a time where small pack was king, which was great for us. It made the business actually semi-viable. Now it's back to cask and keg, which is great. I love cask and keg beer. I love being out there, but in reality, I get 5 in the run, which is absolutely silly.
Yeah.
I still do it. I've got double-size fermenters, so I'll do like a 12-hour day and just double up and fill a fermenter, which helps a lot. Yeah, it's not the most sensible, but it's great to have the beer out there. Like with Cambridge Beer Festival was a big order, and we did 5 Firkins Amber Haze, 5 Firkins the Blonde. Like, guys, there'll be a full batch of each for the order. If you're happy to go with it, crack on. I'd love to be there. So there's been a lot of that sort of situation, really, of brewing to order.
We've realised it gets more the planning, and you just always seem to have the wrong thing in stock. But it takes so long, kind of brewing to selling. It's kind of 6 to 8 weeks, so you kind of have to have that magic ball.
Yeah, you need to be thinking of the next season ahead almost before you even.
Yeah, so we end up holding a lot in stock because it's not ready to sell, and then you'll get a big order or something and be like, I just bottled that when I know I could have done casking it. Well, the current problem is you haven't actually got the casks to keep up. We have quite a few, but you're looking at trying to get like another 20 or something.
Yeah, so I'm trying to work with Kegstar or eCast for a rental service. Luckily for them, they're really in high demand, so it's quite challenging to set up a new account.
Yeah, that was it. You would chase them to Beerex in March, and they're like, "Yeah, we just can't take you on. We just don't have any."
Oh wow!
Thanks. And last year there was a keg shortage, which was great, and then the ones we needed were like stuck on a big cargo ship somewhere, and they couldn't get anywhere.
And that then went sort of escalated to them having to go under in essence because the cash flow got so out of sync. I think it just ruined the business, which is a shame. So that eco keg we used to use a lot for our beers, and now we can't use them. So again, it's like, well, we may as well go stainless because I hate using plastic kegs. I just hate the whole throwaway culture of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, running a brewery is more about logistics and operations, which is neither of our strong points.
Yeah, when you're too creative to the business, it isn't really the most sensible thing to be.
I was just going to say, and I think this happens so much, is that you get somebody who loves making beer and they start experimenting and they think, yeah, I want to do this for a job. And they start a brewery and then all of a sudden there's all these other things to think about as well.
There's the really boring stuff to do.
You go like, oh, this is right. I wanted to make fun beer and like loads of neaters and things. I didn't want to like sweat all day long and like have a bad back.
Yeah, and worry about kegs and invoices
and do spreadsheets and work out like the ordering of the amounts and whatnot.
Do you find that you collaborate with other local breweries on things like casks and equipment and things, or is there not enough people around for you to do that?
There are actually. So Robert Brierbank, he's brilliant from day one. He's a lovely guy. So we sort of borrow bits from him. We sort of work together on things. We share ideas. So he's a lovely resource to have. And also if you've got events coming up, we'll say, oh, actually, I'm going that way, so I can take your cask for you, etc., which is always really nice. I do some contract brewing for another business. So that's at Brewshed. So I use their kit when I got close to them, which is great. So the brewing industry, it's kind of the reason I really took a jump into it. Everyone in it is so helpful and excited about it because everyone, generally speaking, not everyone, but most people have gone in for passion alone, not for numbers, so not for money. So they're sharing ideas, whereas when I was back in design and engineering stuff, it's more like lots of IP and people say, you know what, we've worked really hard on that. I want to share it with you. That's our equipment. It's a lovely culture to be in. So, like you say, people are always work together. And you say, I need these hops. You've got it in the cold store. You spare it.
So people are really helpful.
I guess there's not that many industries, like pretty much just said there, where people are so eager to help each other.
I remember what really struck it for me. I met a guy who used to be the head brewer at Lakons, but he came to meet the brewer at a local pub in Bury St Edmunds. And I got there and I realised that I was the only person in the whole room with that attitude. Everyone else thought, oh, it'd be a free night of beer, wouldn't it? We'll just go and get drunk. So me and Will were in the corner chatting for 4 hours, and he literally just, like a book, opened up, and we just spoke for hours about everything. He's like, shouldn't say this, but you seem to know what you're talking about, so we're going to talk about it. Tell our secrets.
I think I could blame this guy for your encouraging you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
That was the first time you actually went to he invited you for a brew day.
Yeah.
So you got up at like 4 a.m, drove to Great Yarmouth for that. Was it Great Yarmouth?
It was, yeah.
To go to Lakon at that point. And I was like, oh no, he's hooked now.
Yeah.
So we sort of talked about the logistics and the hard work of actually getting the beer from idea to reality. The thing that strikes me with your beers is they're actually really different. And we've sort of talked at the start about how Suffolk maybe is, still probably one of the counties lagging behind others in terms of what it's at. I'm fascinated that and it's great that you're selling out as quick as you can make it, the stuff you're making. Because the first beer I ever had of yours was a Jasmine Blonde, which tasted really heavily of jasmine, and it's a brilliant beer. I love it. When I saw that, I was like, right, this is a better taste of jasmine, otherwise I'm going to be disappointed. Exact beers who advertise tastes and then don't deliver a pet hate of mine. Definitely. The same as your Hibiscus Blonde was incredibly lively and an amazing... That's not your fault. And an amazing colour. And again, tasted of hibiscus. But that's not a Suffolk beer. So how's, what's the sort of influence and what sort of made you go down this road with what you're brewing?
This is the thing, because there was a point where we almost just did a tea beer brewery, because I really got insane geeky about tea and beer at the same time. And everything, I've got a Lapsang Souchong Dark Mild, which is like frazzle beer. It's insane, but no one's going to drink it commercially. I thought, can't release that one. Well, oolong sour pale ale. I thought that's as insane. Probably not a bit sexy. I thought, well, Jasmine's pretty easy going.
Please release those. They sound awesome.
I love a Ralph beer, so a frazzle beer sounds amazing.
It is so much softer on the smoke character than a Ralph beer. It's really something to behold.
I think you must have done all at homebrew first, but you didn't actually want to release the Jasmine. Because you're like, oh, Suffolk's not ready for this.
Exactly.
Like, no one's going to buy it. And I was like, no, you should release it. And it is really popular. It's funny, we're taking it to a few beer festivals. And whenever people are like, oh, you got a lager? I'm like, just try this. I'm not going to tell you what it is. And they're like, oh, it's lovely. Can I have a pint? And then you're like, tell them what it is, and they're like really confused.
Isn't it amazing how people say, "Oh, I don't really like those sort of beers," and then you give them one, and all of a sudden they love it.
Yeah.
Well, I am drinking the Jasmine Blonde as we speak.
Oh.
Dave? What have you got?
So I've got the Ruby Brett.
Oh, the funky one.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
So.
Not good.
No, definitely good. The compliment I was going to play is it's a bit like if you wanted to get into this as a stepping stone to get into Little Earth.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's subtler,
funky, but not as tart. We aged it on currant fruit, in essence, in casks with sort of a bit of a funky bacteria strain and some Brettanomyces, and it just like so. It's it's not for everyone, but it's cool.
Almost not really like a beer that one, but because we're not Little Earth, we don't want to like kind of let Brett take over the whole brewery. It was a bit of a baby sour to try and like dabble. Yeah, and I wouldn't even say it's sour. I get a little bit tanniny, but not too much. Like it doesn't start coating the back of my teeth or anything like that.
Yeah,
I get what you say on the back. You know, you should get fruit and a bit of leather maybe, and I get all those, but just mild versions of them, and it's nice. It's really nice. It's very enjoyable.
Thank you.
What do you make of your Jasmine, Dave?
It is not what I expected at all. There's a nice level of haze on it, and I didn't expect it to be hazy at all.
Yeah, the tea, like the polyphenols in the tea, do a really weird thing. It will settle over time when it ages, but if you have it on cast, it's a hazy boy.
Yeah, it looks awful.
It's not, because it's not like that's like your colour of the beer. It's not like proper pale. It's like a nice straw, sort of like gold ale. So it doesn't always look as good. Which so on cake it's great, it drops out perfectly. But yeah, it's weird. Yeah, but that's one of our sort of favourites because that was our third beer we actually brought out of the kit, I think.
What was the thinking in putting your beers into bottles rather than cans?
The biggest thing is we built the whole brewery up just on my sort of salary, what was left then every week, every month, building a little pot up. And at that point, I couldn't go on the route of getting a bright tank or like a DP, like a conical fermenter to pressurize the beer. And I know that if you've ever had like the fruited sours about 4 years ago, they were literally can bombs. If you get the carbonation wrong in a can, they haven't got the structural integrity to hold extra pressure.
Yep.
So I thought that's not an option at all. Bottling was something I knew that I'd done for years. And bottles aren't trendy. They're a pain in the backside to send in the post. There's still a kind of inherent quality of a bottled beer. I would love to go in the cans, to be honest, but as you kind of alluded to, our styles are not like super sexy.
I'll look at a beer in a bottle and my brain automatically tells me that beer in a bottle is probably more traditional than the beers in the can.
You are right to think that 8 out of 10 bottles you'll see are not going to be like hype juice, are they? They're going to be like they're going to be a lovely best bitter. They might be like a really like say Old Chimneys, an insanely good stout.
Yes,
but they aren't going to be loads of frothy, juicy.
Because like all the Belgian beers are in bottle. You don't get like a Belgian beer in a can.
I know, but because
good point. Good point.
But regardless of style wise, they're far more stable.
And when you're drinking and you're not drinking your own beers, whose beers would you drink?
But I've actually put the weather. Like you'll hear this most brewers. I've gone back to lagers actually.
Yeah. Trying to think what's
all
like.
brewers seem to end up drinking lagers.
For me, it's like a really well made classic bitter and a lager, because like you can throw loads of stuff in a bitter in theory, but getting the balance right isn't always there.
I drink a lot of Polly's or Alpha Delta on say like a nice pale ale.
Yeah, I'm a bit of all for old man apparently. But I do enjoy juice. I do like it a lot, but I also just because recently I started doing lagers for this contract brewing work, and as soon as I get into something, I get really geeky and really analytical. So that's where every lager I think, yeah, that's good. This is wrong about it. And it's a voyage of discovery for me every time. Trying to just learn things.
Secret. He's a full-time brewer, but not for us.
Well,
he's got this contract brewing job that actually pays the bill. It's worked out quite well actually because you're contract brewing at a brew shed, so you're getting to brew in a much larger kit, getting to know your way around a much larger brewery.
Yeah,
that is being canned. That's being contract canned. So you've been learning about working with Bevcraft, and more of the processes for canning. So in a way, you're learning quite a lot of skills out of it.
Yeah,
on the job.
On the job, and he's kind of paying you for your time. And
it is really good. So we did 5,000 5,000 cans of Pilsner 2 weeks ago.
And all the recipes for him were developed in our kitchen.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Still on the stove. Still on the gas stove. Yeah.
Brilliant. This is the sort of stuff we love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like every recipe, generally speaking, it's done at home on gas stove. little burner pot, cool box mash tun, and then I've got like a nice little Fermentosaurus fermenter. I'm not really fancy. I don't have all the SSV kit. I'm like rough and ready.
Do you find that your whole lives are consumed by beer?
Yes.
Yeah, sadly.
That sounded so resigned.
Yeah. The thing is, like, my head had been so absorbed by beer for the past, like, say, 7 years at least. But it's no different for me. I'm just now talking about it rather than keep it in my head, should you say. Every evening I'd be there in my book playing your recipe, like, excellent, yeah.
Cat,
transformation. Yeah.
Do you ever have to tell him to shut up about beer?
Yeah, all the time. I'm like, can you pay more attention to the numbers, not the beer?
But people want hops. They want the hops. Yeah. So
I obsess about, cash flow and paying bills. And
we should tell the listeners. So, Kat, you are more. You've still got a full-time job as well as the stuff you do for the brewery, but you're more on the administrative side of the brewery. We should probably say.
Yeah, so I managed to shut down to 4 days a week because it was all getting a bit much. So my Friday is kind of helping labelling, deliveries, planning, paying the bills, checking the stock, and
keeping him focused. That's what I'm getting that impression.
Well, I have some silly days in that brewery, so that's very helpful to keep me in check. Yeah, and
then most weekends we're doing some sort of event. We have done a lot of farmers markets, which I don't see us doing forever. But yeah, at the minute it's really difficult because we would like to expand to do more. We don't really know how. And I think, we could get into the conclusion that we need to maybe find like another business partner or like someone else who can actually run it.
Yeah. It's tough. You're doing the markets, like you're saying, you're generating an income, but you don't want to do that forever. But what do? It's hard to work out which direction to take, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird. So like trying to find some space for a tap room so you can sell direct would be great. Then it kind of gives us a home, which would be that's kind of been the dream.
Yeah.
Because we're based on Cat's family farm, or we find the pot to do a lot of work and to grow there, which again is a lovely dream to have as well, because there's a great barn area which we could, with the right sort of plan, could convert, and we could have, say, a 20-odd hectare kitchen there, maybe a bigger, the space for an actual tap room and a barrel room. So if we could figure it out, it could be an amazing dream.
But yeah, I think we've realised running all that, managing all that, we looked into converting one of the old barns into a brewery last year, and it was, coming out like 300,000, probably $500,000. You're like, I don't really want to be responsible for that.
Yeah.
Well, just sort of, I feel we've danced around a little bit and we're getting there now. But what you do have with the space is you have got your festival coming up.
Thank you. Yes, we do. Yes. So the end of July, we're going to have I guess it's now our annual beer festival on site, which will have food trucks, live music.
Yeah, so 3 days, so 28th, 29th, and 30th of July.
Is it going to be all your beers at the festival, or have you got guests as well?
This time it'll be all ours. We'll have some like a guest cider, like a brand new, really nice. Well, I'm really proud of actually, a nice saison, which so we have that launched at the festival alongside like our trad bitters and miles and things. So it'll be a good mixture of stuff there.
How many years has this been running for now?
3 now.
Yeah, kind of. I think the first one we did was we did like some crowdfunding. So the very first one strategically was more like a kind of VIP small thing to kind of test the waters a little bit and just feel comfortable that we could do something. And then we did 2 last year. So we did Easter and July, and now we're just going to do 1 a year because it was
for 2 people. It's we get someone in to put the tent up, and the food trucks obviously do their own thing. But yes, getting everything organised and make sure everything is in peak condition, like getting your casks racked, everything vented. So there's a lot of stress behind the scenes that people don't really appreciate.
Well, it was just we did it last year when it was so hot and dry. Like the weather, yeah, sure, it was lovely. But actually, everybody was burning. Like, we didn't have enough shade. We were having to put ice jackets on the casks every night. You were so stressed that the beer wasn't the right temperature. Oh, okay. And after like a week of like all the setting up, serving for 3 days, the breaking down, we were just like done in for ages. We were like, never again.
And the day before, I had to pack a beer as well. I don't know why I did it. It was absolute madness. So I had a bottle of beer the day before.
That's funny.
Yeah. Oh,
we get a lot of good feedback for what we think is a fairly, we kind of throw some straw bells out, put some nice music on, serve some beer, get a food truck to turn up. People really do give us nice compliments on it. We're like, we don't try that hard to obsess about the finer details, but people seem to have people like it's so lovely.
It's farm chic. People love that.
They do. And there's nothing better than getting feedback, instant feedback on your beers as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is great. That kind of makes it all that time more worthwhile, because if nothing else, you get a direct feedback straight away and think, okay, that's either gone really well or hasn't been received as I want it to be received. Like we did a brand new release, for example, and like the hibiscus, when we first released it, you're sort of handing it over this red, juicy glass. How are you going to receive that? And like, oh wow. Oh, you want it now?
I've just opened it.
Yeah, because it looks like it's going to stain your t-shirt red, doesn't it? That's it's so vibrantly red.
That is an amazing colour. Dave said to me earlier what a great colour it was, and it is. Wow.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, we had that on cask at the festival last year. So we're going to have it on keg this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, people were really like, do I, don't I? And then, most of them did like it. Some were just like, no, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
It's mad though, isn't it? That just a colour will put people off. Red ale is a style that's been around for, I want to say centuries, but it's certainly very well established, isn't it? Like, so why is a red going to put you off?
I guess if you get like a really murky-looking NEPA, you probably think, oh, that's the end of a cask, isn't it?
True.
You wouldn't think it's a really juicy, hoppy thing, would you? So sadly, that is it. A lot of it's, just...
I think, we have a real mix of younger people who are really... like to try new things and really like experimenting. We joke a lot of our audience, perhaps more like your dad's kind of age and kind of, oh no, you put tea in a beer, or what you're doing. I'll have some of the ESB, please. That's fine. But we have to kind of cater for everyone.
When you're serving people your beer and you can see that reaction immediately, do you find it more satisfying getting a really positive reaction off a younger person or an older person?
Actually, it's the older person. I won't always trust their judgment, not to sound rude, because they were used to warm pints in places. But if you've made them happy, then ultimately you've made an old man or lady say good.
It's like it's a level of surprise in their voice. Like,
oh yeah,
it's really good.
The reason I asked this question is I was helping out a local brewery at an event last weekend, and this old boy came up. He was probably in his 70s, and he goes, "You got a pint of bitter?" I said, "Well, no, not really. I've got lots of hazy yellow beers." He sort of looked at me. I said, "Hold on, try this," and I gave him a little taster of American Pale, and he tried it. He goes, "Wow, that's really good. It's really good." And then he had a pint of it, and he loved it. He'd never have ordered that pint.
Yeah, we did a similar thing. We did last year. We did a thing called Hopsters Beer Festival.
Yeah.
An older gent come up. He's like, "Oh, I want like a ESB or something." He goes, "Well, try Amber Haze. It's our English version of a West Coast IPA. So it's like really quite malty. It's not mega hoppy, but it's nice balance of Chinook, Izak, etc." And he goes and tries it. He's like, "Oh, that's really good. We're quite expensive." Like, "That's quite good, thank you." Goes over duration, tries their dripping pitch, and grabs the guy, the barman, and goes, "This beer, ours, is better than your beer." Really? Wow! But yeah, you get this lovely old man, and he's like a massive endorsement for your brand. Think that's lovely to have.
What he's subtly saying there is, one of our beers rated better than a duration beer in the Regional Zebra Awards. Not that he's holding on to that little glimmer.
You've got to hold on to these things.
I know, exactly, yeah.
We've talked a little bit about what you want to do. You'd love to have a tap room at some point. So let's work out a 5-year plan for you. What would the next stage be? And where would you want to be in 5 years' time?
Yeah, so in my head, we do lots of these food and drink festivals, markets, which is great for awareness, great to get a brand out there, and we've gained quite a good following as a result of that. In my eyes, we shouldn't be getting it any smaller than 10 hec now. That's kind of the next sensible step. So, and that's going to be, to get it right, it's going to be quite a lot of that cash. So for me, it's thinking, work what we have. So find a taproom space. We had discussed trying to do something smaller farm-like, but we're a bit in the sticks, and we aren't like...
We're not in the sticks.
Well, we're
actually quite a good location.
Yeah, off the main road.
It's just, trying to work out if people will travel to it, because there's not loads of public transport.
I think that's something that a lot of breweries worry about, and I don't think you have to, because if your product is good, wherever you are, people will hunt you down.
My sort of idea is the highest base in town is do you get the numbers game in town where you get far more people coming to you, or do you get like the higher quality sales where you are at the brewery? I'd love to then sort of reduce our sort of event sort of sales side, maybe even start to contract brews with a larger stock of keg and cask, which we've got now a nice connection. And then for me to kind of go back to my roots in the brewery, because I've got 2 new fermenters, 2 fresh-bred chronicle fermenters. So now we start to really go back to what I got passionate about, really trying to push styles again and get more creative there. Yeah, I'm not just saying just double IPAs and NEPAs and things. I'm talking about like the sours and really nice lagers and stuff, and getting a bit excited.
He's been crying for like 3 years. I can't make a lager.
Well, as you know, everyone says good brewers ain't worth their good lagers. If you make a bad lager, you're not a good brewer. So therefore, I had to make sure it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
So then, yeah.
Well, I reckon you should open a place in town and the farm. That's what you should do, both of them.
That is the other one, isn't it? Yeah. That is the other one. Yes, the dream there has been we had to keep our size. Then we have quite a good demand for cask and keg. Better keep up with that a bit easier and just juggle things as we currently are, but hopefully a nicer return in cash. We'll see. Yeah, hopefully.
Like at the minute, with the size of the kit, it's a lot of blood, sweat and tears.
I think you have to go through the pain of working with that sort of kit to appreciate what you might move on to later.
I also think the more stressed my body becomes, the stronger it becomes. Therefore, I am getting so resilient now. That's my whole ethos. Like, just push yourself to the limit. If you don't break, brilliant. Keep going.
Well, that was a very entertaining chat with a couple of very nice beers. Thank you very much indeed, James and Kat from Artifacts, and hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yes, thank you very much for having us. It was a nice chat, and hopefully we didn't ramble too much.
Nah, not at all. But we enjoyed every minute.
Thank you.
Hi, Dave, and all you Daftaboutcrafters. I'm going to try and do this in one take. Wish me luck. It's Andy from Hops at Home, of course. Here I am with your update from us to you. And the offer this time round, we know we like to do these offers, is 2 free beers again in your order when you mention Daftaboutcraft. But this time, there's only one little job for you to do, is to pick 2 Wylam beers to go in that order. So it's straight to the Wylam Brewery, and we have 5 cans of Wylam at the moment. So pick 2, and you can pick 2 of the same beer. Don't be shy. Update from us wise, we had some sours last week from Vault City Yonder and from Funky Fluid in Poland. They've already been flying out. It's the absolute perfect weather for sours, isn't it, really, to be honest? It's my worst time of year because I die in the heat. Other stuff going on with us, we've got beers going in this week from Full Circle, including a couple of pear beers from them. One's a dipper, one's an IPA. We've got some Overtone going on as well, including 2 dippers, I think, actually. One in collab with Rivington. And the last brewery that we're going live this week is Play, which we haven't had in for a while. A couple of light beers and equally 2 sours. Well, that's it from us. I hope you're all really well and enjoying the weather more than we ever will. And we'll speak again soon. Remember, of course, you can visit, nearly forgot, Dave, you can visit the website, which is hopsathome.co.uk. When you're on the website, you can join our mailer, which goes out every Sunday night with news of the beers we're having that week, as well as any offers that go live too. And of course, just a reminder that courier orders go out every week. Next day delivery with DHL, they are £8 delivery. Orders under £70, orders over £70, they are paid for by me. So take advantage of that. Buy lots of beer. Enjoy yourselves. Right, take it easy, everybody. Cheers. Bye.
Daftaboutcraft.
Right, it is now time for Tried and Tested on Daftaboutcraft. This is the part of the episode where we check our untapped scores and see which beers have been fascinating us during the last few weeks since our last episode, and report back to you with our favourite beer. Dave, what have you been enjoying drinking?
I have managed to keep the German theme going very easily, because this was an easy one, actually. The beer that stood out the most came from First Viacek, who are Berlin-based. People have probably seen them about. They've been around a little while now. They're doing a few collabs, I think, which are knocking around at the moment. But this is all their own work. The beer is called Floppy Disk. It is a 6.8% New England IPA. And the main thing with this actually was it's brewed with Citra and Laurel as the sort of slightly different element.
Yeah.
Amazing colour. Tasted really, really good. And the Laurel came through, which was the most interesting thing. So you got your sort of normal Citra, and then the Laurel was quite floral, but never too much. And also a little bit earthy, as my memory sort of serves. And it just made for a New England, which was slightly different, but really, really drinkable. And just a very, very good beer. On a sort of wider note, it's hopeful signs of perhaps seeing a few more foreign bits coming through.
Fingers crossed. Well, I'm staying quite local to home, to my neck of the woods. I'm going to Block Switch in Warsaw to New Invention, who just recently celebrated their 4th birthday. And regular listeners will know I'm quite a big fan of New Invention. Been going there pretty much the whole time they've been open. And they'd got a bit of a sour weekend on for their 4th birthday. And they'd got 2 of their sours, which were called Zing. There was Zing Passion Fruit and also Zing Lemon. Went with a Zing Lemon to start with. Wow. It was all going on there. And they served these 2 sours with, those little round ball things you get in bubble tea. Ever seen those? I can't remember what they're called. When you've got your little one and they're older and they want bubble tea, you'll find out then.
Right, okay.
That's the only reason I know. Anyway, they put them in the drink and they sink to the bottom and then you suck them up with a straw. So these sours were served with a straw. It was quite fun, but the beers were so good. And it seems to me that New Invention beers are really excellent now. I also had their On Your Marks, their sort of flagship beer, which tasted amazing. And it's really interesting to notice that New Invention have just advertised for a head brewer. And I was speaking to Carol there, trying to persuade him to come on the podcast, actually, which I think I may have talked him into it, so hopefully he will. But he's realised that he just hasn't got enough time for brewing all these beers now, so he's bringing somebody in. So it's really nice to see a business doing so well. There's so many other things to do that now the brewing's got to take a bit of a back seat for him, so somebody else is coming in. Great beers. And if you're ever in the area, do pop into their tap room to New Invention in Warsaw.
Get in touch with us on Twitter and Instagram at Daftaboutcraft1.
So it is Father's Day, June the 24th, Sunday, June the 24th, and it's just after 5 o'clock in the evening, and I'm sat here in the tap room at Missing Link in West Sussex. Now, regular podcast listeners will know that we featured a bonus episode a couple of months ago with Missing Link, recorded right here in the tap room when it was empty, but now it's full of people. And absolutely buzzing in here. 10 different beers on tap, loads of beers in the fridge, and a really lovely atmosphere. We've done a roaring trade here today with food. The field outside has been full of people, and there has been a food truck out there. And then Missing Link have been doing their own food here in the tap room as well. I should say that it took us about 3.5 hours to get here, but certainly worth a long drive. 150, 160 miles or something, but absolutely worth coming down here. And happy to say that we're staying in one of their glamping pods tonight as well, so looking forward to that. I've managed to go through most of the beer board, which is excellent, and the highlight was probably the berry sour which I've had. They've got a brand new sour out which I've got right in front of me in a glass on tap, which I'm just about to try as well. And if you're ever in the area, or if you're not in the area, I would say definitely try and get yourself down to Missing Link. It's a really, really lovely atmosphere. If you're used to tap rooms on an industrial estate often being sort of cold and not very welcoming, this is the absolute opposite of that. And I can't say how much you should get here, because it really is worth the effort. And get yourself in a glamping pod as well. DAF10 is the code you want, and you can get yourself 10% off. How about that?
Daft About Craft, the craft beer podcast.
Well, on every episode, to give us and you a bit of a different perspective, we have Sam, one half of the Copper Beach Brewing Company, on. We call her the brewer's wife, and she comes to let us know what life is like married to a brewer. Welcome, Sam.
Hello.
So, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I thought, as we've just past our 1 year anniversary of moving into our unit, I thought I'd talk a bit about the move. And, you know, it's one of those things where everything should have been nice and straightforward, but of course, you know, never is. So all the little things that happened during the move.
So to put it all into perspective for listeners, Dan, about a year ago, moved into a completely empty unit. In fact, it was a brand new unit. So you'd think, piece of cake, what can go wrong?
Exactly that. So obviously it was a very long road for us to get there as well. These units were built pre-COVID but unfinished. And then due to COVID and then one thing or another, you know, it took until 2022 to actually complete them. So we'd waited all that time, obviously looked for premises in the meantime, couldn't find anything that we could afford and that was the right size in comparison. And like you say, we just had this brand new, fresh unit, could just walk straight through the door, everything was done. Amazing. And then very quickly realised that something was not quite right with the addresses of the units. Now, when we first applied for these units, we were told we could have number 3. And that number 3 was the furthest away from the road on the right-hand side that we're on. So for your listeners, there's 2 rows of units directly opposite each other. I think there's 5 on one side and 3 on the other. And they are just literally 2 rows. So we were in the shorter row on the end, furthest away from the main road.
I mean, you are on an end, but it's not that end.
Yeah, exactly. We wanted the one roadside if we could have had it, but they said, no, it's this inside one. Anyway, when everything came through, all the paperwork and everything came through, you know, they give you, like when you buy a house, you've got the highlighted area that shows your boundaries and everything. We were in this end one. Number 3 was the end one, closest to the road. So we were like, oh, great, you know, that's the one we wanted. But we obviously went back to them and said, you know, just wanted to clarify on the original plan, number 3 was this one. Now it's this one. Just checking that's all good. Yeah, all good. That's yours. That's the one we've got you down for. Okay, great. Perfect. We were like, what a stroke of luck.
Nice bit of grass at the side in case you want to use that at some point.
You know, hopefully in the summer we can get some benches out there or whatever. But yeah, lovely. So yeah, it felt very lucky, as if, oh, we're so blessed. Then we moved in. And I can't remember what signalled us to kind of realise that there was something not right with the electricity. But basically, to cut a long story short, Unit 1 and Unit 3 were swapped at some point, but after the build and all of the meters and everything had gone in. So our electric meter and our water meter was all registered as number 1 and number 1's was registered as number 3. So they kept getting our bills, we kept getting their bills. The amount of letters I had to send emails rather, to the electric companies to try and get it sorted was ridiculous.
It's interesting that you say you had to send them.
Well, yeah, I was the one that had to take... Well, saying that, I think my mum stepped in and dealt with NPower quite a few times because even after they said it was sorted, we kept getting bills from the wrong address. And then I tried to set up some broadband because this is obviously at a time when Dan has got a lot going on. He's always got a lot going on, but specifically at this time, it was trying to get the kit up and running, all the important things. So I said, well, I'll deal with... Famous last words. I'll deal with all the utilities. I'll take that load off you. And tried to set up some broadband and again it got sent. Vodafone, I think it all got set up. Lo and behold, it didn't work. And that was another month of backwards and forwards. And I actually, for the first time in my life, shouted at someone down the phone in a call centre because I was that frustrated and they just wouldn't help me. And it was just ridiculous.
At this point, were you thinking, God, we should have just stayed in the shed?
Oh, God, I miss the shed. Yeah, no, it's just one of those things that shouldn't have happened. But months later, literal months later, I'm pretty sure the water stuff was ongoing until very recently. We are all sorted. We think everybody's paying for the right stuff and we're all in the right place. But yeah, these things just don't ever run smoothly, do they?
That must be something that a lot of brewers listening to this can relate to. You know, you just want to crack on, do your job, make your beer, but you get sidetracked with all these mundane things that are completely out of your control and must be so frustrating.
I don't know if that's a common thing for brewers, but Dan would genuinely say that's the story of his life.
So you've been in this unit now for a year. And
I know what you're going to say.
I regularly pop down and see Dan and see how it's all going. And every time I go, it looks a little bit more full. There's a few more shelves, stuff's getting nearer to the ceiling. So surely you're going to move out soon, Sam.
Oh, God, no. I mean...
Imagine that.
Oh, it will happen at some point. We always said this is not going to be our forever unit because it is too small and we would eventually love to have a tap room or some sort of outlet of our own. But yeah, I mean, obviously when we first moved in with the kit we had, someone asked us if we were making curry and we've gone from like those pots that just look like giant saucepans to obviously these huge vessels and so it gets cluttered in there very easily, like you say, once you add kegs and pallets of cans and all of the equipment and the cleaning stuff and so on and so forth. Yeah, it does get very full, and yes, we don't have a lot of space at all.
The thought of moving all that stuff, like you say, it will happen at some point. I wouldn't like to be organising that little lot.
Well, I tell you what, I'll definitely be checking the plans of the building and that everyone's utilities are registered correctly, that's for sure.
Daftaboutcraft.
Right, so the podcast is nearing an end. We've just got time for the section we call Any Other Beersness, and joining us now is Nick Davis from Hobson's Brewery in Worcestershire, and they're just about to celebrate their 30th anniversary, and they've brought out a special beer to mark the occasion, so we thought we'd speak to Nick and, just ask him about the brewery and how it's changed over the last 3 decades. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm all right, Dave. How are you?
We're very well. 30 years ago then, the beer landscape was very, very different to how it is now.
Yeah, exactly. And to have been in that landscape for 30 years has been quite a change. It's been interesting to see it evolve from something where it was quite difficult and rare to have a guest beer on the bar counter, to one where choice is everything and is available. The ability to supply pubs is not as easy as we all thought it would have been, but now the range of beers is so great. You can drink from light to dark to traditional to more crafted. We've got everything out there now. It's absolutely wonderful.
How many beers do you now produce?
So we've got 6 cask beers, 8, 9, 10 at any time bottle beers, and then 3 keg beers. And then obviously during the cask season, we'll have seasonals or monthly specials.
Now, you're not far from me because I'm in South Staffs and you're in Worcestershire. Now, I see your beers everywhere. Wherever we go into a traditional pub round here, Hobson's beers are there.
When you say South Staffs, is that more Black Country South Staffs?
Well, I mean, I like to call it South Staffs because it sounds a bit posher, but yeah, not far from Stourbridge, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great area. It's got a great drinking established history. It's a heartland for us, as well as rural Shropshire, northern Herefordshire. It's a really great area, and people really appreciate good pubs in that part of the world.
You've been around now 30 years, and in that time, your beers would have catered to a very different audience 30 years ago to what they do now. Could you have imagined in 30 years the beer that you've made to celebrate this? Would that have even sort of been considered the type of thing you'd have been doing 30 years' time to celebrate an anniversary?
The advent of craft has allowed us to trial and experiment with stronger beers. I know we produce 5.2% Old Henry as a winter product, but we really wanted to do a traditional proper IPA, English IPA, with a decent bit of strength, give it some life, and traditional English hops, as well as some nuanced hops in it as well. And I would have said probably not, because the hops that we've introduced into this product are only into their second year of sale as a commercial hop. They were trialed for 2 or 3 years as well, but this is only the second year that they're on the market. So by their rights, we wouldn't have been able to produce this particular beer. Isn't that what's exciting about the industry, that we can do things like that now? There is, however, a caveat in all this, in that the duty changes that are coming in August will make producing a 5.5% beer or stronger more problematic, because the duty impact will double the cost of duty over 5.5%.
I think we're starting to see that filter into craft now, because all of a sudden a lot of people are doing a lot of table beers, and the session beer, that's now becoming like a lot of craft breweries sort of staple beer to go to, something under 5.5, as you say. And then perhaps you do still do the stronger beers, but they're on a sort of lower run and less of them, just to, combat that duty rise, as you say.
Yeah, and it will be noticeable. It will have an impact just because of this whole change in duty. It's a small producer duty as opposed to a small beer duty. Another interesting concept, which will be the weaker beers being more of an interesting product. So anything that will be under 3.5% will have a reduction in duty. So it might innovate the lower strengths, and we might be talking another year or two's time about really interesting concepts around what I call breakfast beer.
Yeah. Would you ever think of doing, a sort of a micro IPA and putting it into cans, or is that a step too far? So 2.5%, really, really tiny ABV.
I think there's some great merit in it. We're really proud of our mild at 3.2%, and there's loads of flavour in it. It's just fantastic. And I think we could mirror something that had that flavour impact in a very pale, crisp IPA. I think there's some merit at 2.8, 2.5, definitely.
Interesting. Now, when you started 30 years ago, did you ever think that 30 years later you'd still be going?
My dad worked for Courage for 20 years and then had enough of the big boys, had his own pub. I was a brewery surveyor. So we came in from it from a slightly different non-brewing side, but with contacts within the industry. No, it wasn't a chosen career. It was more about doing something you enjoyed. But it is most definitely 30 years of enjoyment and 30 years of a statement that I always say it beats working. But, you do work. You work really hard at it. But there's nothing better than watching somebody enjoy your product or ordering a second beer or repeat purchase. You've done something right if someone likes it and rebuys it. Yeah, and a lot of our pub trade is repeat, where we deliver to them every week or every fortnight. Yeah. And so it's a constant sort of reputation. It's a constant loyalty from the drinking public. All of that underwrites the great pleasure in being able to produce with great ingredients. If your passion is to produce good quality beer consistently using the right ingredients and doing it the right way, because I think all these things are really important to us, sustainably, and looking how you look after your waste and your staff and how you create your energy and how you become efficient and sustainable at the same time. If all these things match, it's a great pleasure, and you have to be proud of what sort of pride you put into it and how it's achieved at the end of the day and what other people think of it.
And how has the day-to-day job changed during the time the brewery has been running? What's the biggest change?
Well, I tell you, something that's I'll be very brutally honest with you. Something that's happening in the brewery at the moment is we think that we're good at brewing very good liquid, but we've realised that when we want to pack and carbonate and put into keg or store, chill filter, technically we're nowhere near good enough at it. We should be a lot better, but we're a really good cask craft brewer. We haven't understood the modifications, the technologies behind making really good craft, utilising CO2 in a better way. You can drink some fairly mediocre carbonated beers, and they're pretty. They've been over pasteurised, over carbonated, and they've become a bit like pop. Whereas when you drink a really good craft beer that's been carbonated, there's been a lot of science put into that carbonation, a lot of temperature analysis. There's been a lot of degradation analysis, so that you've got the life of the product. You put a super amount of hops in, after 6 months, the character will change. So there's been a lot of detail into how you retain the product quality over the life of the product, and then how to expand the life of the product to make that quality last for longer. And all those sciences aren't really there for what is a really good cask brewer. You have to develop that. And I think those nuances are because of what's happened and evolved in the marketplace. And whereas a brewer like ourselves perhaps hasn't quite evolved fast enough, whereas a newer craft brewer has come in and developed and learned all of those nuances, but probably doesn't quite get the nuances of producing a cask and how you have bottle condition and cask condition product and how you look after repetitive strains of yeast and things like that. So it's almost two skills that need to be put together.
Very refreshing to hear such an honest assessment, and also a sort of a willingness to want to embrace it, because it does feel sometimes that there is a bit of a very big divide, and some of the traditional brewers are a bit sort of, craft over my dead body type thing. So it's very refreshing to hear a brewery with their roots are steeped in tradition that actually is saying, well, no, we want to do this, but we want to do it right. We're not just going to sort of do it as a half measure just to pay lip service.
Exactly. And I think that's where we have to be. We have to get it right pretty quickly and be in both marketplaces with good product. I don't think we need to have a sub-brand. I think we can do it as Hobson's Brewery, and we can stand and fall on the quality of what we do.
That probably moves us on quite nicely to the beer that we are enjoying, which is called Dirty Gertie, which is, as you say, a 5.5% English IPA utilising Harlequin hops. What did you sort of want to set out and achieve with this?
I thought, let's have a strong beer. Mm-hmm. Let's show some strength. It shows some resilience. It shows some been around a long time. It wanted to be British, English. We hadn't brewed an IPA of any character. There is New England IPAs, there's Deepers, there's all sorts of products. And I didn't want to do that because of our roots are as a traditional brewery, pretty much as you just said, Dave. But I wanted to use British hops that had a little bit more floralness than just the standard Fuggles and Goldings. So hence the Harlequin being the new hop. It's only been on the market for 2 years, restricted contracts on them. And actually second hop is Target within there as well. So it's Harlequin and Target, brewed fairly fairly traditionally, quite a nice light colour with just a hint of goldenness, a bit of melon. And we wanted to trial cold carbonation on it. So we stored it with a second dose of hops in the cold tanks for 5 days and allowed some carbonation collection naturally in cold tank. So we were expecting a little bit of secondary fermentation under chill, and then we wanted to bottle it with this extra carbonation built into the liquid. And then a small amount of, and I do forgive me, I think it was Nottingham yeast we used to seed for bottle conditioning. So again, we haven't gone down the craft route. This is pretty much a traditional product with just a hint of contemporariness around the hops.
I'll tell you what, it's very, very drinkable as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed the last hour of cricket and had a couple of bottles yesterday evening. Very nice. Do you like it? Are you happy with it?
Yeah, very much so. It's gone down really well. It's very light. Yeah, did chill. Yeah, it's come. Yeah. Had a nice evening in the fridge before today, but very crisp, very light. And as I say, wouldn't know it's 5.5. You could, as you say, watching this with the cricket that seems like a very good marriage to me.
It's been a really nice product to make, and I think it is the start when we now do our monthly sessions, seasonals and rotationals. There's going to be a bit of innovation into everyone. Something will be a very low gravity under 3.5 as an innovation. Something will have a little bit more spice into it, or an additional fruit or something. But I don't know we're going to be absolutely into this New England IPA scene or I don't know that we need to go quite that far yet. But development of stout, most certainly something we're looking at. We've won a lot of awards for our Dewstone stout, and we do see developmental work on that and adding strength to it, and maybe chocolate or coffee or vodka or whatever goes into it.
Now, there's something quite interesting if our listeners get hold of a bottle of this, which they can do from yourself. I want to talk about bingo numbers on there, and there's a chance to win something. Unfortunately, neither Dave nor myself have won anything, but do you want to tell us about that?
This is down to Charlie, our marketing manager. It's an absolute genius thing that's happened here. And actually, it's her working in connection with our label manufacturers, who aren't a million miles away from you in South Staffordshire, near Walsall they are.
Okay, yeah.
Towards Cannock. And what Mercian did with Charlie was there is 8 bingo balls with numbers on them, but each label has different numbers, and they're randomly printed as different numbers. However, 8 of the bottles have the same numbers, and those numbers are 30, 14, 25, 3, 55, 23, 66, and 4. Normally in a box of Dirty Gertie, there is a little ticket in there saying, if you've got these numbers on your labels,
that's right.
Yes. Take a photo of it, send it back to us, and choose number 1 to 8 for your winning prize. And so there are 8 winning prizes with those numbers. We have had a winner.
Oh,
so that was exciting. I haven't won anything yet. I keep looking for it.
We had 2 bottles delivered, and the first thing I did was to check to see if I'd won anything. Sadly not.
keep drinking it. It's all very relevant. Dirty Gertie is the call for 30 in bingo. We're 30 years old. The number 30 is in one of the bingo balls. The whole concept around this was that we started to introduce bingo back into some of our local customers' pubs. So we've been doing Hobson's 30th birthday bingo nights, and we've been doing like a little road show around Shrewsbury and Hereford and Kidderminster, around our local pubs.
What an excellent idea. I love that.
And me. I've often said to my wife, it sounds silly, I know, but I'd love to go and play bingo one night, because it's something that we never do. I've never really done it. I'd love to do it. Just the whole idea around bingo. Is that still going on then? Are you still doing those nights, or is that finished?
Yes. No, we're still doing them. And we're sort of giving kits out to pubs so that they can do them. So on a sort of Tuesday, Wednesday night, we want to have a couple of hours, having a couple of callers in and...
No, you've also got, on the 1st of July, an event coming up to mark the 30 years in business.
Correct, a little bit of a birthday party. So come to the brewery. There will be a bingo session there.
Oh, right. Okay.
There you go, Dave.
So a quiz, a bingo session, some music, lots of lovely food, and it'll just be a brewery festival. Brewery tours, tastings, a lovely bar, lots of Dirty Gertie to drink, as well as others.
And if our listeners want to get hold of some of your beers, what's your website address for them to do that?
Hobsons-brewery.co.uk. There is a shop on there. Just go straight through to the shop. one of the things that we have created there is if you're not sure what you will like, there is a thing called a case builder, and you can select a couple of bottles of each to make up your own 12. So you don't have to buy 12 Tanquerays. You can have a mix and match, or don't have to buy 12 of anything else. You can still do a mix and match.
Look, thank you so much for joining us. The beer is nearly gone.
Yeah, so's mine.
So it's about time to end the podcast. But thanks very much. And I'll see you for a game of bingo on the 1st of July then.
Please come along on the 1st. Look forward to seeing you. You're more than welcome, both of you. And thanks for the conversation. Always nice to share moments.
Daft About Craft, the craft beer podcast.
Well, thanks very much indeed there to Nick from Hobson's Brewery in Worcestershire. Really fascinating conversation. And that just about brings this episode of the podcast to an end. You can catch our next episode the week beginning July the 10th, when, amongst lots of other things, we'll be chatting to the guys behind Mill Hill Brew Co. from Leicester. Should be a good one. They've been making some really, really good beers recently. So we'll see you in a few weeks' time. Cheers for now.